Hello everyone, and welcome to Fableheim, and yet another update for Iratus, Lord of the Dead. It is my greatest pleasure and most unholy of duties to update you for any news that we receive regarding the DLC Wrath of the Necromancer, and we have received some news. You may be able to see that now they have revealed the second and final new creation for our Supreme Necromancer. But there are a few more tidbits thrown in the announcement that I would also like to address. But before we get into all of it, first of all, he looks a lot like Nurgle. Very much like Nurgle. So we're going to have our own grandfather Papa Nurgle in our series, and I'm looking forward to it. For reasons that you will see here shortly. But first, let's take a look at this backdrop here, shall we? Hello, Necromancers! We are keeping in touch. DLC Iratus Wrath of the Necromancer, which we plan to release this fall, is almost complete and has already begun testing. Exciting news. The DLC will include 2 new minions, the Reaper and the Abomination, additional skins for all the creations, a new alchemy mechanic, potion making, which we covered last time, new, including elite and 2 position enemies, alternative bosses, or boss, new artifacts and items, and an additional story video. More stuff for me to remix. We introduced the first minion, the Reaper, and talked about potion making in the previous news. I also have videos for both of them if you would like to go find them out in the void. Today, we will introduce to you the second new minion, the Abomination. Multifunctional, a lump of flesh that effectively protects allies from attacks and also instills panic in its enemies with its mere appearance. And isn't it beautiful? It's kind of funny because the moment I saw this, I was kind of thinking World of Warcraft Abomination, and I was also thinking Nurgle exactly at the same time. And I leaned more towards Nurgle because of their first attack, but we'll get to that soon enough, don't worry. War never changes. War is an eternal mover of progress, especially in the realms of the necromantic. Although Iratus had only recently re-emerged onto the stage, he did not waste any time delving back into his favorite hobby, the creations of minions both dread and vile. In his malefic pursuits, the Necromancer had stumbled upon something that he did not expect. The power of a new curse. A curse of flesh, infused into the bodies of those wretched miners by the alchemist, and strengthened through sorcerous experiments. Their flesh turned out to be infused with so much lingering pain. It took some study, but finally the results are at hand. The grotesque and putrescent Abomination. Undead flesh forced to grow and deform over and over until it becomes a grisly engine of war. Yep, it's beautiful. So we have a few gifts. We have 4, I believe. I also have notes of what my first thoughts were, and I will share them with you, of course. For this first one, time to zoom in. Zoom. It is pixelated a little bit, but I hope you don't mind. The Abomination uses all of its outgrowths to inflict very nasty damage on enemies. You can see this is a single target attack, and it hits thrice from what I was counting. 3 swings of tentacles that grow out of nowhere. Perfect. It does crit the first time, but I don't think that's a mechanic. I think that's just them getting lucky while they were recording this. Now, we've had attacks that hit multiple times before in the past. This is nothing new. We have the Infested, we have the Fallen Dampier, and that's it. Those are the 2 I can think of. And hitting 3 times is exactly like the Fallen Dampier's physical ability, her physical ultimate. So it's not quite as good as the 5 times of the Infested or of the magical damage for the Fallen Dampier, but anytime you have an attack that hits more than once, there are some shenanigans waiting to happen with the Ashes of the Burned Witch or the Spider Mandibles. And perhaps some more things. They did say they were adding new items. Eh? It's a thought. It's something I will be inspecting. And before we continue, the Abomination does have a trait. Yeah, you can see the little blue star in the bottom right underneath its health bar, but they don't tell you what it is. So we're going to be doing some guesswork around it. Sorry. For the second gift, it can easily become more intimidating or destructive, depending on the needs of the Necromancer, and our needs are great. So in the GIF, what they're showing is they have an Abomination in the 3rd position that buffs itself by rubbing its tummy. That's how I buff myself too. That steps forward into the first position. Whether that means it moves forward 3 spaces or 2 spaces, we can't exactly tell. Either way, that's a lot of moving, so I'm happy. And as it moves forward, it inflicts a attack against sanity against all enemies. You can tell it's sanity because it doesn't affect the armored unit, the armored living armor, that's what it's called. Living armor in the back, which is a good on them to put that there. You can also tell because it does the little dusty thingy, but sometimes I've gotten things wrong. So I appreciate them putting that clarification in. It isn't a significant stress damage. It's very minor. But as we've seen with the mummy, minor stress damage adds up. So, the only other thought I had here is it says it can easily become more intimidating or destructive, which makes me wonder if we're going to be looking at something similar to stance swapping. If you are familiar with, well, either way, whether you are or not, in World of Warcraft there was once a thing called stance dancing for warriors, and basically they could switch between these different stances, and their different stances opened up different abilities for them. And they would dance between them to use the different abilities as necessary. And I'm wondering if we're going to be doing some stance dancing with the Abomination, or if they're just saying that, hey, it can attack, but it can also defend. Guess hard to tell when they use language like this. But, potential. Potential. And I like potential. For the third GIF, shielding another minion with its rotting mass. It can also counterattack the assaulter. Now, this appears to be not a permanent thing, because when the GIF is ever so slightly not focused in on the targets, you can see there is the shield on the Reaper in the second position. So this is a Warden specific ability, which they recently remade quite a few abilities to turn them into Warden type things, where you protect a single entity and all attacks at that entity will be redirected to the protector. That's the first thing to point out. The second thing to point out is in this GIF, the counterattack is freaking strong. It one-shots the living armor, who are not squishy by any stretch of the imagination. Which leads me to a few questions. Is the counterattack damage baseline? Like, is it something that you just pump up by throwing literally all of your stats into attack, which we all know I'm going to do. I'll admit it. I'm a fan of that. Or is the counterattack based on the damage that the Abomination receives? Even then, this seems kind of extreme. So I'm wondering if there are some other conditionals involved in this, or if... I don't know. Why does it one-shot the dude? Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of one-shotting people, but I'm just confused. And if you've been watching Aria Chronicle at all, we've been using the monk and her counter-attacking finesse to basically carry me through the entire game, so I will of course be using the Abomination in this capacity, and I will find a way to break it. That is my promise to you, the people. For our final and fourth GIF. And of course, weak-minded opponents will be rashly absorbed and disappear into the chaste womb of this monster forever. So what's happening in this, I think, this is very similar to the Ghoul's ability. Whether this is an ultimate ability just like with the Ghoul, I don't know. So I'm not sure if this is a Wrath thing. They don't show the Wrath meter in this GIF. It could be. It could very well be. And how it seems to be functioning, it could be a carbon copy of the Ghoul, where if the enemy is under X amount % of health, I think is it 35% now? They've changed it a few times. The Ghoul can just instantly eat them and call it a day. The difference here is that it appears to be her sanity bar. So under X amount of sanity, the Abomination just eats the person. And instead of getting a ton of buffs immediately and healing, the Abomination is applying regeneration to itself, so it will heal over a few turns. I don't know how strong that regeneration is. It could be really good, it could be really bad, it could be dependent on what you eat, because you know what they say, you are what you eat, huh? Another thing I was thinking of while I was staring at this very intently is it could, instead of being a carbon copy of the Ghoul's Devour, whatever they call it, lunch break, I don't know, it could be based on whether the enemy is insane or not, because the sorceress is insane. Not only does she have a low sanity bar, but she is also insane. And if it is that, this ability is way stronger, especially with the good old Skeletor, Feller of Titans, master of mediocrity, 7th of his name. I lost count. So that could be fun. Just a thought, you know, a glimmer of hope for all of our skeleton admirers out there. I know there are a few. I think that's everything for that one. Sanity bank, percentage. Yep, that's all my thoughts on this. I mean, it looks awesome as well. And being devoured by this looks terrifying. So, good. As usual, we ask you to share your impressions, and they share with us a wonderful gif of our Papa Nurgle smiling. Isn't he so adorable? I hope I can make it canon that this is literally an incarnation of Papa Nurgle. A great unclean one are the greater demons of Nurgle, but it's like a little Papa Nurgle. He also does look like a good great unclean one, to be fair. Except a little too pink. A little too pink. But that's fine. We don't color shade here. And maybe he'll get a skin that's green, eh? Oh, that would be good. P.S. Answering the question about the release date of the DLC, we will inform you that we plan to release it in late autumn. Until then, add to your wishlist so do not miss Wrath of the Necromancer. Now, this is a little... I'm going to throw some darts here. Autumn is technically September 21st to December 22nd. Technically. That's technically autumn. But a lot of people don't associate December with autumn. They think that's pure winter, which is... it's fine because it's cold. But I'm hoping, and there's some bias for this, that we're looking at a late November release date. And the dart that I'm throwing is November 26th, because that's my birthday. I'll take it. So the other good news in here was, I mentioned it really early on, but the DLC is in its final stages and has begun testing. So, pester them if you want to test it, I guess. Well, don't pester them, but you know. I hope. DLC tends not to get as much external testing. A lot of it's like internally. So I hope that it's going swell for them. And I'm looking forward to breaking literally everything the moment I get my hands on it. Oh, it's going to be so fun. I can't wait. So what do you think of the Abomination of our lovely little Nurgleth? Oh, I guess the Infested can't be Nurgleth anymore. Well, sure, whatever. If you think of our lovely little Abomination, I think it's going to be great fun. I'm looking forward to this. Defense, offense, sanity, and devouring people. What more could you want in a creation? It is truly a war machine beyond expectations. So yeah, that's all I had for you today. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Feel free to let me know what you think of our lovely grandfather Nurgle. And I'm looking forward to seeing his second skin, because I want that to be full Nurgle inspired, and it's gonna be great. I hope that you also have a great day, and are looking forward to the release of the Wrath of the Necromancer. And I will see you for the next update, or the game, whichever comes next. Bye-bye!